I just want to say in the beginning of this video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment your thoughts down below. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell to never miss an upload. Anyways, back to the video. Hey guys, it's me, Blood Hunter. This is the first video I will upload, so I hope you enjoy it. I was initially going to make this with pictures, but I decided against that since it would be too difficult for me, and I wanted to get started on YouTube ASAP. I wanted to get started on YouTube ASAP, yeah. The reason for this is because for over 2 years, since the COVID-19 pandemic started, I've been wanting to make a YouTube channel. However, I never got started up until today. The reason for this is entirely my fault, and it's because I heavily procrastinated making this video due to the amount of effort I would have to put in. However, to not delay this video for any longer, and actually start up my YouTube channel, I decided to make this video. I found that I wanted to make the first video with something related to Yugioh, one of my favorite things in the entire world. So today, for a long time, So today, I decided to make a Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga review based on the first part, aka the first 59 chapters or 7 volumes. There were two other parts called Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels and Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium World, Duelist being the more popular one as that is what the 2000 anime is based on, but I will not be reviewing those in this video. I will be sending all of the links to my information down in the description. Now, keep in mind, since Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the first manga I ever read, I may be a bit biased in this video, and give it a higher score than it deserves based on nostalgia. However, I still think it's really good and would highly recommend it. This manga was created in 1996 in Weekly Shonen Jump and was at issue number 42, which was released on September 14, 1996. There were several covers for this manga on Weekly Shonen Jump, which I will be referring to as WSJ from now on, including one in issue number 51 for the 1996 realization for new featuring Katsuya Janochi, Hirota Honda, Yugi Moto, and Anzu Masaki. These are the four main characters in the manga, however, there are some more including Ryo Wakura, Seto Kaiba, and Mokuba Kaiba. Yu-Gi-Oh! Ended on March 8, 2004. I thought it had a really interesting plot and premise, and really enjoyed reading it. I loved all the characters, especially Dark Yugi and his enemies, and I thought the characters were very well thought out and fleshed out. They all had different personalities, strengths, and weaknesses. Even the minor one-off characters were entertaining to watch, and I liked the somewhat episodic nature of each chapter. The overarching story was interesting, however, I was more intrigued by what the one-off encounters Yugi and Ko had. I thought that they made this manga unique and made each chapter thrilling and exciting to read. The mini arcs in the manga were also fun and engaging to read, especially Death's Tea, although they had a very different plot structure compared to the episodic chapters. They didn't feel out of place. They didn't feel out of place and had a very satisfying climax ending, very rare in today's mangas. I loved all the death traps, especially the T2 with Chopman. I liked Chopman a lot due to how dark and gritty of a character he was. In fact, he's probably one of my favorite characters in the entire manga. To give a bit more context on who Chopman is, essentially, he is a serial killer whose backstory is very similar to Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, albeit he killed kids instead of adults. His mask was inspired by Jason's, Michael Myers, and Leatherface's. I wish I could show you I wish I could show his mask to you guys, but I can't since this video will be purely audio, so I'd recommend you guys search it up on your own. The use of his chainsaw was inspired by Leatherface, and his wisecracks and calculated insanity stemmed from Freddy Krueger, the character from the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. His character was introduced by the narrator who stated that he murdered 10 Boy Scouts during summer camp near Domino Lake. He chopped their bodies into unrecognizable pieces, and the news of the murder is spread all over Domino City, the fictional city in which Yu-Gi-Oh takes place in, or the fictional city which Yu-Gi-Oh takes place in, and caused the citizens to get extremely scared. So the suspect came to be known as the Chopman, but was not captured and remained at large. Kaiba the corporation Seto Kaiba, the main antagonist of Yu-Gi-Oh owns, later hired the Chopman for the horror zone stage of the Death theme park. After Yugi and his friends passed the blood puzzle inside of the murderer's mansion, a trap door to the basement and exit opened, with the Chopman hidden inside. Chopman reached out and swiped Joji, Honda's niece, kidnapping him. Chopman was ordered not to kill Choji by Kaiba as they needed him to lure in Yugi and his friends. Choji was forced to sit on a podium in the center of the room, with Chopman hidden in the darkness behind him. Choji unsuccessfully tried to convince the others to come inside, lying that he was alone. When it became clear that the group were going to come in, a screen lit up on Chopman's torso with Kaiba on it. Kaiba asked Yugi and his friends to send one of their players inside or Chopman would kill Choji. So Choji stepped inside and went over to collect Joji, and the door slammed behind him. This was a very important, impactful moment thematically, as before this point, Joji had always acted like a spoiled brat and very rude and irritating around Inochi, just to make him mad. But this moment showed that deep down, Inochi didn't really care about that, and wouldn't hesitate to put his life on for Joji. However, Joji continued to sabotage Jinochi, who by strapping a handcuff on him, which was connected to a chain strung through the podium and onto the Chapman's wrist. Unity was forced to face Chapman in a deathmatch using an array of weapons hanging from the ceiling. Chapman climbed on the podium and took the chainsaw. He was able to use his brute force to pull Jinochi over to him by yanking the chain. The chainsaw got stuck on the podium as the Chapman made a swing at Jinochi and Joji. As he tried to free it, he didn't pay attention to Jinochi, he didn't pay attention to Jinochi, who picked and unlocked his end of the handcuff using a candlestick to strap the chain onto the door and slid the candle inside it. After the Chapman freed the chainsaw, he spotted Jinochi over by the door. Trying to pull him over again, he yanked the chain, ripping the door out of the wall. Jinochi escaped and the candle hit the oil-covered floor, incinerating Chapman, meaning he burned alive. That was the basic rundown of the match between Jinochi and Chapman, probably my favorite event from the entire manga. Another reason I like the first person of Yugioh is a lot is because of Shari and Bakura, who are very engrossing and fascinating characters. They are minor antagonists, but felt a lot more complex and mysterious than most of the other antagonists in this part, and would play a major role in the third section of the manga called Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium World, as I mentioned earlier. Sorry. These next few reasons won't just be praises of the first part of the manga, but also criticisms of the later parts, including Duelist and Millennium World, so be prepared for that. The third reason I like Yu-Gi-Oh! So much is because of the wide variety of games. However, this concept would get ditched in the later parts in favor for one game, Duel Monster, or as it's known in the Japanese version, Magic and Wizards, which made the manga worse in my opinion. I used to be excited to read each chapter, and was even looking forward to playing some of the games on my own, or trying to recreate them based on the final pages and the end of the volumes. However, by the time Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel started, it was it it was all the same. It was all the same game and had no more variety or excitement towards it, and oftentimes felt very boring and repetitive. The fourth reason I like Yu-Gi-Oh so much, as I alluded to when talking about Chopman, is because of how dark, gritty, and disturbing it was. There were several chapters which were very dark and had lots of mature and had lots of mature topics slash themes, but I think they were handled really well, albeit not in a very deep or complex way. However, this aspect of the series too would get ditched, or at the very least severely reduced in the later parts, because of the shift in the direction of the story and making it more kid friendly, which is another aspect of the manga I believe that made it worse. The fifth reason I like Yu-Gi-Oh so much was because of the high and intense stakes, and was because of the high and intense stakes, while also feeling at least somewhat realistic. However, in the later parts, this too would get completely destroyed, as the story became based on a children's card game and became almost completely unrealistic. Yes, the story always had some magical and supernatural elements in it, but it never felt like too much of a plot convenience or an asshole. It was often not a major part of the story, only being used sparsely by sorry, yeah, so only being used sparsely by a few characters including Yugi, Bakura, and Shadi, and only used as a punishment for the loser, aka a Shadow Game. However, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist and Millennium World, the Shadow Game and magical elements felt so overused and unnecessary that it made the plot feel very convoluted, and almost every battle slash encounter felt like an asshole. Now, this isn't exactly a praise for the first part of the manga as much as it is a criticism of the second and third parts of the manga. However, in the first part of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, the themes like friendship, while still present, aren't nearly as emphasized or repeated down your throat as much as they were in the second and third parts, or third part. This made it much less annoying and frustrating compared to the second and third parts. And although I don't personally mind things like friendship and never giving up, at one point when it's repeated so much, the themes start to become very annoying and start to lose a lot of their value slash importance in my opinion. Overall, I'd rate the first part of the Yu-Gi-Oh a 10 out of 10, and I'd probably consider the first 59 chapters slash 7 volumes on their own to be the best manga I've ever read, and I've read a ton of manga. However, overall, I wouldn't say that it's the best manga I ever read, and wouldn't it probably wouldn't be a 10 out of 10 or even a 9 out of 10. However, if you guys want to figure out what I think about the other two parts, although you probably have a good idea about my thoughts and feelings regarding them from this video alone and what score I would give them, check out part 2 of this review, which I may upload sometime in the future. Now, I do understand that it might have been a little bit harsh towards parts 2 and 3 of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga in the latter part of my review. However, that was purely just because, it might be a slight over exaggeration, but I'm just comparing like the second and third part of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga were, while not bad by any means, I don't think they were nearly as good as the first part in my opinion, And although I didn't mind necessarily, and I still thought that it made a great manga afterwards, I do honestly think that the story did take at least a slight dip in quality at the very least, and like it didn't keep me, like me personally, at the very least, engaged or actively listening or like actively paying attention to the story anymore after like first part, right? Because I felt like the first part, it really it was what I wanted Yu-Gi-Oh to be, but unfortunately, after the first part, well, not I wouldn't say it got bad necessarily, or heck, even mid. I'd still say it was very like, pretty good, honestly. Even after the first part, like in the second and third part, however, I feel like this story and the tone of the story and the direction of the story just changed so much that it didn't feel anything like at all like the first part, and honestly, just changed so much that I couldn't enjoy it as much or in the same way. But I still recognize it. I still like it a lot, and despite my criticisms of it, I still really liked the Yu-Gi-Oh 2000 anime. So if I do ever make a part two in this like, manga review for Yu-Gi-Oh, I'd probably still give it a high score or even part three. But these are just like some of my thoughts, and even if they were a bit harsh, I do believe that I at least had like some valid criticism, and I had like at least some valid points and arguments about why I thought that Yu-Gi-Oh the first season wasn't necessarily the best, and or not the first season, sorry, the second and third parts weren't necessarily the best, and were honestly like not as good as the first part, and like a different quality. But anyways, to wrap up this video, I would like to make a few quick comments. However, they're completely unrelated to my review. Although my first video is about Yu-Gi-Oh! A manga, I plan on making this channel about several different things that interest me, as I don't want to pigeonhole my channel into just one particular niche slash topic. This doesn't mean you guys have to watch all of my videos if you aren't interested in them, but rather that I don't want to be limited to one type of content on this channel. Anyways, that's it for this video. Have a good day and peace!